On today's list, we're going to be looking at the top 10 sports cars under $20,000. And for those that are a little bit confused, as I could take it somewhere by the last video, this used to be my second channel. The channel now is under new direction, and soon we'll be introducing new narrators for the channel so that we can make even more videos like this one here, as opposed to nothing, which is kind of what we were getting before. Now back to the list. The number one car on this list is the Porsche 911. In the last video, we talked about how one of the best sports cars you can get for under $8,000 is a pre-owned Porsche Boxster because of how similar it was to the 911. Well, for a price less than that of a new Ford EcoSport, you can get a gently used 911. And when I say gently used, I mean it. If you bought a base model 911, you've probably floored it once or twice, but they've been gently used for almost 20 years. And even though this car comes with all the prestige and performance you can handle, it is a bit dated. So it's a great looking car, but it's not much of a showstopper. You see, the same reason to buy a Porsche Boxster is exactly the same reason you might not want to get this model 911. It's because there is a much cheaper car on the market that looks almost just like it. And the performance of this car is great. It's a fast car. It's almost exactly as fast as the Porsche Boxster S. But all that aside, this car is still worth the $20,000. But you have to realize that at least $5,000 or $10,000 is being spent on the nameplate alone. Now, if we're talking about driving experience, the Boxster S will make you smile just as much as the 911. But you don't buy a 911 for smiles. You buy a 911 for the clout. And instead of telling people you have a Porsche 986 and hoping they don't know anything about cars, you can tell them you have a Porsche 911 and hope that they do know about cars. The next car on this list is the Mercedes SL Class. Now, for under $20,000, there are actually 3 different ways to go when buying this amazing car. Now, there's the stupid way, where you get one with really, really high miles because it's much newer, and the really, really stupid way, which is buying an AMG that has a lot of miles. Or you could choose an SL 500 with fairly low miles, which will be reliable for a while, but eventually it will steal your wallet and leave in the middle of the night to go be with the tow truck driver. And you'll be left sad. And alone, but that's still better than the really stupid way. The really stupid way is to buy an SL 55 AMG with high miles. And this one will be more fun to drive. Oh, you bet. But you will have a much shorter relationship with this vehicle. You see, this car has already stolen someone's wallet and left in the middle of the night with the tow truck driver. And it never promised not to do it again. Nope, that was the salesman. And in terms of performance, the SL 500 goes from 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds. And the SL 55 AMG does it in 4.5 seconds. But either way you go, you're paying for the 3-pointed star, not for performance. Although a used SL 55 AMG might still be the fastest car on this list, it's also probably the car that will cost you the most in repairs. And you will need repairs. For an American sports car under $20,000, the most obvious choice would be a Chevy Corvette C6, which means your car will only be 10 years old instead of 20, which is good except for the fact that people tend to drive their Corvettes a bit harder than they would a Porsche or a Mercedes. And that's because of the reason people buy this car. It gives you more speed for less money. You can hit 0 to 60 in one of these in 4.2 seconds. And there are Porsches and Mercedes that can do that too, but they're more expensive. You see, the reason people buy Corvettes is so that they can race the more expensive cars and win for less money, which makes Corvette owners very happy. The only problem is you won't see very many SL 500s at the drag strip, because the people that own SL 500s don't really care. Luxury sports car owners really just want a fun driving experience while also showing off their wealth. But a Corvette owner mostly just wants to go fast. Not that the name Corvette doesn't impress people, it does, but at the end of the day, you're still just driving a Chevy. The same company that makes the Chevy Tracker makes the Corvette. So if you were looking for a new sports car and spending $100,000 or more on that car, you probably pick something else. I actually think if Corvette would become its own brand apart from Chevy, they might be able to lose that cheap horsepower reputation that it has. The problem with that, though, is that there would be less trickle-down sales. You see, when many people come to the Chevy dealership, they have a brand new base model Corvette in mind, which is still about $50,000. But then they realize that with any options, it's out of reach. Not to mention what it might do to your insurance costs. I mean, this thing brand new was $50,000, which is a lot of money. So when they realize the Corvette is just out of reach, the sales associate offers to show them the Camaro, which is what a lot of people actually end up with. And by no coincidence, the next car on this list is the 5th generation Chevy Camaro. For under $20,000, you actually are going to have a couple options. You could get a Super Sport, which will give you the same horsepower as a Corvette. Or you could get a V6 and have everyone tell you that you should have got a V8, bro, which is silly. Most of the people that look down on the base model muscle cars don't even have a fast car at all to begin with. But the V8 muscle car owners will also criticize your decision. And that's probably the main reason to get the V8 over the V6. It's because when you get a muscle car, you'll be asked, which one did you get? And if you say the V6, you'll probably get a response like, oh, well, that's still cool. I mean, it looks awesome, but not everyone buys a car for other people's opinions. And the truth is, all 5th generation Camaros are fast. But you see, there is a long-standing reputation that the V6 muscle car was never able to escape. And that is that it's slow. Nowadays, it's only slow in comparison to the V8 version, but it's still faster than most cars. And if you're not taking it to the track and you're just using it as a daily driver, then why not save a little money on gas, insurance, repairs, and obviously the price of the vehicle itself? And just know that despite all the hate that people give to the V6, it can still blow the doors off many V8s. A few years back, most V8s only had about 300 horsepower anyways, if that. And the V6s might have only had about 200 or so. And obviously in some cases even less. These days, a V6 Camaro has over 300 horsepower and the V8s have moved up to having over 400. But what I don't get is, when did 300 horsepower become not enough? I remember people talking about how mind-blowingly fast the 4th generation SS Camaro was, and it's almost the exact same speed as the new V6. But it's all relative. One car is only slow compared to another car. But when you're driving around not racing anyone, isn't the thrill all the same? Let me put it like this. If the next generation base model V8s have 600 horsepower, and somehow the V6s have 450 horsepower, people will still say the V6 is slow. But it's not. In fact, if the V6 were the only Camaro they made, people might even just call it fast. But because the V6 is doomed to always be compared to its bigger brother, the V8, it will always seem slow to some people. The next car on the list is the Dodge Challenger. For under $20,000, you can get a Dodge Challenger, and not just the V6 version, you can actually get a V8. And you don't have to get an older model. You can get one that looks just like the brand new ones on the lot. And the reason you get this late model V8 two-door car for under $20,000 is that they've been making them like this for over 10 years and haven't really changed anything with the appearance. Now don't get me wrong, they've come out with many different motors for this car. However, the 5.7 liter V8 that's in this Challenger is basically the same motor they've been using in their Dodge Ram pickup since 2003, which means it's a good motor. But it also means it might be a little behind some of the other V8s on the list, but honestly not by much. It's really the weight, if anything, that slows this car down. Not that it's slow by any means, the Dodge Challenger RT goes from 0 to 60 in about 5 seconds. And when a company has been making a motor like the 5.7 liter for that long, they've had plenty of time to work out anything that might be wrong with it. And as far as the looks, the 2008 Dodge Challenger is virtually identical to the 2019. I mean, sure, they've made minor changes here and there, but nothing anyone would really notice. So what's the downside of buying this car? Well, part of the problem is that car companies typically don't keep the same model car around for that long, which means there's a very good chance that the next generation Challenger is right around the corner. So while you're still buying something basically identical to the new Challenger, that all could change very quickly. All it would take would be for Dodge to either discontinue the Challenger, which I kind of doubt will happen, or they release a 4th generation Challenger, which is long overdue. Either way, this new looking car is likely to age very quickly, very soon. So depending on how you look at it, that could make this car a good deal or a bad deal. But a lot of that depends on your opinions of other people's opinions. Because regardless of what other cars are made, this car will still be the same as when you bought it. I also wanted to give an honorable mention to the S550 Mustang, because you can get the most recent generation Mustang, but it's probably going to be the pre-facelift Mustang. And for under $20,000, you'll end up with the V6. But there are convertible models available if that's your thing. And there's a reason why Mustang continues to outsell Camaro and Challenger year by year. And that's because, well, frankly, it just looks better. Both Dodge and Chevy make very good looking cars, but this car is better looking. It just is. When Ford created the S550 Mustang, at first glance, many people thought this was an Aston Martin. But the downside to this car is that because it's such a great deal, now everyone has one. And despite those great looks, it's not quite the showstopper you might think. In fact, many people you know probably already have one. So despite this being the newest and probably best looking car on this list, you're still not going to get any attention for it. But really, who cares? It's an awesome car, and you're gonna have fun with it. And that concludes the list for today. Make sure to subscribe, like, and leave a comment on what your favorite sports car is and why. We'd love to hear from you. Till next time, this is the list.